Alright everybody, how are we doing today? If you're a caffeine addict like me, drink some Kickstart. It's good for you. Anyway, so, normally I don't do videos on the weekend. I like to take a little time off from having to think about politics all the time. But I think this is kind of important. And I need to catch up on the work because I've been out of it for a while. Life sometimes gets in the way. You know, you got to go get groceries, got to do other things. Don't necessarily have the time. But sooner rather than later, U.S. seeks to deploy mid-range missiles to Asia as it ditches INF treaty. This is from Rupley. And it says, U.S. Defense Secretary Mark Esper endorsed the idea of deploying medium-range missiles to the Indo-Pacific region, just as Washington formally left the landmark INF treaty with Moscow. Yeah, I would like to, Esper told reporters during his trip to Australia, when asked whether he was considering deploying conventional mid-range missiles to Asia-Pacific. The Pentagon chief said the U.S. would like to deploy a capability sooner rather than later, but declined to provide a detailed timeline. I prefer months, but these things tend to take longer than you expect. I secretly picture every politician who I haven't heard speak yet kind of sounded slightly like Obama. Not sure why. I would prefer months, but these things tend to take longer than you expect. Esper made his comments after the U.S. formally withdrew from the landmark Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, or INF Treaty, with Russia on Friday, signed in 1987 during the Cold War. The agreement banned all land-based missiles with a range between 500 kilometers and 550 kilometers in their launchers. Trump basically said that the agreement was written in a different geopolitical reality. Excuse me. And that it was no longer relevant to modern warfare. And of course everyone took issue with the INF. Even Russia wanted U.S. back into the INF. For reasons which could not be confirmed as to what exactly they were. So it could honestly be anything. But of course there was a glaring weakness in the INF, being that it only bans land-based missiles. It says nothing of missiles mounted on ships, which do indeed exist. So maybe Trump was correct in this move if he was going to replace it with a better, improved INF deal that covered ships. If not, then I have no idea what the hell he's planning. In recent years, Washington and Moscow have been accusing each other of secretly violating the treaty. The U.S. initially suspended its obligations to the agreement in February. Russia responded by doing the same several months later. Mark Esper, who was confirmed by President Donald Trump as Defense Secretary last week, said that Washington will now fully pursue the development of new types of ground-based missiles. Now that the country has left the INF treaty, he stressed earlier that the U.S. needs to build a new military bases and boost resilient force posture in the Indo-Pacific region to counter China. Oh, I see. Now I get it. So that's what you were planning, Mr. Trump. Aha. Okay, so here's what I see going on. He wanted to get rid of the INF treaty because he thought it was holding us back. Get the INF out of the way, and you can develop new, better, larger missiles that can be targeted at China or any other country that he decides to mark down as an enemy at any point in time. At least that's what it's starting to sound like to me. Beijing, which has repeatedly condemned Washington's military posturing in the region, blasted the U.S. for withdrawing from the INF treaty. American plans to resume development and deployment of mid-range missiles will severely undermine global strategic balance and stability, and threaten peace and security in Asia-Pacific, Foreign Ministry spokesperson Hua Chunying said. Hua Chunying! So yeah, America is taking yet another bullying posture, as always. And it seems like at this point it's really all we're good for, huh? Is just being sort of the being sort of the menace of the world, like, hey you, we're America. You act the way we want you to, or we blow you the hell up. Not exactly a civilized stance, if you ask me. That's kind of what this America is. That's kind of what this country, you know, what America has ultimately become, is a place of intimidation. I mean, it's a step up from war, but it's still completely the wrong attitude. And we're still committing to illegal wars over in the Middle East, around the world. I mean, I originally voted for Trump hoping he was going to be anti-war, anti-establishment, da-da-da-da-da. Boy, was I wrong. Yes, sir, I was hella wrong. He's just another warmongering politician. Can you imagine? When is it going to end, people? When are we going to get back to signing treaties and trying to avoid war rather than throwing away treaties in order so that we can intimidate and otherwise make war? When does it end? Because at some point it needs to. I trusted you, Trump. I'm not trusting you again. I am not trusting you again.